Let me bring in trial attorney Alexis Rosenberg. Alexis, always great to have you on. And I have to tell you, so far I'm impressed. I love the way the judge comes out of the chute saying, this is how I'm going to run this courtroom, and this is my expectation for each of you attorneys.
Thank you, first of all, for having me on. Yes, I agree with you, because I think some people that aren't attorneys don't realize that sometimes you can email, as long as both of the attorneys are on that email, directly to the judge's chambers about certain issues and not necessarily file an official motion with the court. And this judge is saying, I don't want that. We're going to file motions. They're going to be on the record and they're going to be public.
And I know that at this hearing, the judge did end up setting a status hearing for July 16th at 8:30. Just quickly, what does it mean to you when a judge sets a status hearing as an attorney?
So, I mean, that's not unusual for a judge to set a status hearing. We're getting ready to go into trial, and the judge kind of wants to say what's going on. He wants to monitor what is going on a little better, instead of all of a sudden the attorneys file a bunch of motions at the last minute, and then they're sitting and have to be heard right before trial. 8:30 is not unusual. That's kind of their like catch-all, at least in Florida's docket, that they're like, okay. And that could also not be a special set hearing at 8:30. You could be what we call a cattle call, meaning all these attorneys are on at the same time, kind of waiting their turn.
All right, Alexis, demeanor can be everything in terms of what a jury sees in a defendant. This was at the time of the murder. It was 3 years before the defendant was even arrested and charged, and now is in court. Very different demeanor than in court. Crying, it looks like. She has a Kleenex anyway. She sounds upset, talking about finding him, and he had a blanket over him, thought he was still sleeping. How do you take her demeanor during this particular police interview?
Judge Ashley, you're right. Demeanor is everything. And you know, that's kind of tricky because different people react differently in traumatic situations. I think with her there crying, I do think that the jury is going to perceive that that was a pretty accurate response if you had just gone through what she has gone through. But as she was testifying, something that really jumped out at me was she wasn't sure, you know, what was going on with him when she initially walked up to him. But he was shot in the face. There had to have been blood all over the place. So that kind of jumped out at me as like something that was inconsistent. Instead of her testifying, she came around the corner and there was this very gruesome scene.
How does that weigh into this, Alexis, knowing that, of course, Danker is saying, well, he took the Fifth this morning and via his attorneys to say he would take the Fifth, protecting himself from self-incrimination, would not testify if called by the defense. So we know that. But he has said that they planned it together. And now you have Karina Cooper in court saying, I didn't do it, he did it. How do the guns play in?
Well, listen, the finger pointing, that's not surprising for sure. But I mean, the question is, because I don't think that the gun, that was tracked back to her. So who has the gun? Whose gun was it? And following that gun is important to this whole situation.
I mean, what a case. Charlie's case, when he was on trial and he took the stand in his own defense and he was convicted, was huge. And as all that unfolds, then we saw what happened. She and her husband were leaving. She was then arrested for her role in the murder of Dan Markell. And that happened in Atlanta. And it was, I mean, something else when he was murdered, because he was beloved. People knew him well and had so many great things to say about him. So what are your thoughts as we're walking towards this trial against the matriarch, Donna Adelson?
I mean, if this was a movie, people would probably not believe it. Yes. I mean, this whole story, case is just unbelievable. So, I mean, we already have her son's been convicted. So, I mean, that is going, doesn't fare very well for her. I mean, and then now, why was she on the phone? Judge Ashley, why was she on the phone that she knew was being recorded at a jail, basically saying, I'm getting ready to skip town and this is why? I mean, which is, obviously that can come in at the trial as well, potentially. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a tough road for her. I really do. I think that the people that have already, not her son, but the other co-defendants are going to come testify that she had knowledge, that she was aware of it, that she was the mastermind. And the question is, we haven't arrested Wendy, but I mean, there's a lot of questions. Did she really have no idea this was going on?
And Wendy, of course, is Charlie's sister, Donna's daughter, who is married to Dan Markell. It was a bit of a nasty custody dispute going on. And I love the point you make about when she's in jail on that phone talking. Who doesn't know that those calls are recorded in their educated family? And so anyways, I just am astounded by as well. Now, listen to this next piece. Court TV has obtained body cam video from the Leon County Sheriff's Office of Donna Adelson during her transfer from Miami to Leon County. She was driven there in the back of a police transport van wearing the same clothes that she had on when she was arrested, and she's shackled at her hands and her feet. But at some point, they had to take her to the hospital in Florida on her way to Tallahassee when officers stopped and checked on her and found her in a state of distress. This is current. Look. This date on that, that's from previously when she was distressed. I mean, you see this in November of 2023, and as all this is going on and the distress is they're transporting her, and I'm going to ask in my ear because my recollection is this distress is from today. No, it's the previous video. I wanted to make sure that I had it right. Okay, this is new video we've obtained, so I want to be very clear on that, Alexis. I mean, you look at her and she does not look good.
She's just been arrested for murder. So, I mean, I don't think anybody would be in tip-top shape based on that. So this reaction, I mean, she's an older lady. This reaction isn't so surprising to me. I mean, this is so outside her scheme. I don't believe she was a career criminal. So this whole situation would be shocking to her.
It would be shocking, but she was arrested again right before this. In November of 2023, they were arrested at the Miami airport as they were boarding an overseas flight. She had said things to her son during a jail call about her plan. So I agree with you, it would be shocking, it would be horrific, but couldn't she read the tea leaves? Certainly she had probably advised with attorneys, and I just don't know that attorneys might have not have suggested to her, hey, you may face charges, you may be arrested in this case. So while that episode that she had and had to be taken to the hospital, it's the first time I've actually watched it, Alexis, it does look genuine. I also feel like, is there any acting going on? Because there's so many signs pointing to the fact she was going to end up charged with something.
Well, I believe that video was the day when she was arrested from the airport initially based on what she was wearing, but I could be mistaken.
No, you're right. That's true. Let me just confirm for you. That's absolutely correct.
Okay, so, I mean, here's the question. There probably was some conversations, like you just said, with an attorney that said, listen, the son, you know, the trial's not going well. And I'm not sure, and I'm not saying people should run off and, you know, try and escape and go to countries that we don't have extradition. But really, if that was your plan, she probably should have implemented that earlier and not been on the phone during that conversation. She waited, I think, until the actual conviction of the son. And I think at some point in the trial, there should have been a little indication, like you said, this isn't going so well.
Yeah, do you think Charlie is going to testify at all? We know this. He still denies that he was involved or that he did it. He's been convicted. I'm quite certain they're probably pending appeals. And it's his mother, though. From all evidence presented at the trial against Charlie, she's a strong matriarch, and I feel like the children would do what they were asked to do or told to do by the mother. Does that mean he's going to testify and say she had nothing to do with it either? What do you think?
Well, first of all, it's my understanding that she was considered at the time, prior to this, a pillar of her community, and she was well respected. Now, obviously, based on how this went down, there was some toxic stuff in that family going on. I do not think he is going to get up on that stand and testify against his mother. There's no motivation. He's already been convicted, number one. And number two, it's still his mother. And as you said, you made a very good point. There's appeals going on this case. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Do you think that he might be called by the defense, by his own mother, to testify on her behalf to say, hey, she had nothing to do with this? I didn't either, but she didn't. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think it's going to open up the door to cross, and that potentially could be a problem. So I don't necessarily think they're going to call him. I don't think that adding him, even on the defense side, saying that she didn't have anything to do with it. I think the problem is that it opens up the doors to questioning in other areas, that they could kind of corner him and get information they need to get a conviction on her, on timelines and other things.
Yeah, I would think that his attorneys would say, no, this is a terrible idea. You're not going to testify. One other quick question, because you did reference it, and that is Wendy. Do you think, what's your opinion, that she might be facing charges down the road?
I'm kind of surprised that she hasn't already faced charges. I mean, she hasn't been charged, so we can't say she had anything to do with it. And currently, it is that she had no knowledge. For me personally, it just seems a little hard to swallow that she had no knowledge of this going on, and there was no communication between the three of them about this. But then again, the father hasn't been charged either.
Hard in this case, Alexis, for me, is to see how many people are around, because so many times crimes, murders happen in isolation. Nobody's there to help. You have all these people around, and yet we know, regardless of what a jury finds in this case, these are allegations, a presumption of innocence. We know the 17-year-old dies.
It's just horrible. And then to think this is out in the public in front of these witnesses, what type of abuse was she sustaining behind closed doors? I mean, it's just horrific.
Alexis, clearly you can understand from that she did not die. Thankfully, she did not die. It's attempted murder charges against both of the parents. I think the police officers are really expressing valid thoughts about what's going to happen when they try to take her home. Are they going to hurt her then? But tell me your last thoughts about this particular case and the charges these parents are facing.
I don't understand. Why didn't the police officers call children and family? I mean, why wasn't there a social service, something open up? Why are we sending her home? Why is there even discussion about this going on at this point?
And there is a sibling, and she was present. I understand that now she's obviously, the two are incarcerated, the mother and father. She's having to deal with the system to figure out where she can be. When you say that, does it surprise you? Let's just be honest. We've got about 20 seconds, but I find that not always is Children's Services called when perhaps they should be.
I mean, we have an attempted murder. I mean, don't you think this is a good time that maybe they should be called?